recording. And I'd like to introduce Jackie Pashnik. Oh, I guess, Jackie, let's wait one more minute, actually.
Yeah, I see the little beep beeps.
Yeah. Get a lot of they all keep coming in steadily. In the next minute, we'll probably still get another 20 people. Okay, now we're at 1:15. Okay, so we have on this call Jackie Pashnik, who is standing in for Crystal Blackburn. Both Jackie and Crystal work with Grants and Agreements, which is another division of the FPAC Business Center. So they're a critical piece, as I described earlier, in pretty much us processing almost anything from agreements to invoices to award amendments. So Jackie's going to talk about what they do and give you a bunch of tips in regards to processing invoices and easy Fed grants and everything. So with that, Jackie, I'll hand the floor to you.
Thank you, Caroline. Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me and congratulations on your awards. So as Caroline said, I'm going to share my screen and then we're going to talk about easy Fed grants. Let's do.
And Jackie, while you're doing that, just so you know, that email you gave me, I will send that out
Perfect.
Now. It'll come in multiple emails because some of the documents are large.
Gotcha. So as Caroline said, I'm with the Grants and Agreements Division. I'm a grants management specialist, and I'm also kind of one of the super user roles in Easy Fed grants. So as you submit your request for access, then I'll probably be the one that will see it and grant access for you. So today we're going to talk about some of the aspects of your agreement administration as they relate to Easy Fed grants. So we're going to look at how you request access and some of the different roles, payments and reporting. If you need requests for changes for amendments, we'll go over a little bit about that and agreement closeout. And I'm assuming that you can all see my presentation, correct?
Yep, that's correct.
Okay, perfect. Phew. Alrighty. Okay, so your first task will be to get access to Easy Fed Grants. So Easy Fed Grants is our online grants management system that is from award inception right until agreement closeout. It's available 24/7 through the OCFO website. And what you'll need to do is to request access. So the thing, this is the website. If you had other bookmarks that were saved for Easy Fed grants, you're going to want to update them. They recently went through a reorganization of their site to a more secure server. So right now the link works and there are some aspects of the site that are live. There are other things that are still under construction. So that is why Carolyn is going to provide you that email that has some of the job aids that you will need. Because right now, if you look at the site, you may get the error that it's not available. So it is hosted by the OCFO, the Office of the Chief Financial Officer at USDA. And that is the link. It's also in the email that she's going to forward. So when you log into Easy Fed Grants for the first time, you'll see this page. So kind of subtly down in the corner, there's at the right-hand bottom of the page, you can see the red arrow. That is the button that will launch Easy Fed Grants. On your server, I mean, honestly, on mine, when I look at it, it's very subtle. There's not a lot of contrast of the words launch Easy Fed Grants, but it's pretty much right in the middle of the page. When you log in there, the first thing that you'll see is an access user request. You'll see that on the left-hand side with the red arrow. And there are also some pages on the navigation bar where you can get to the frequently asked questions. Again, it may or may not be operational when you log into it. To get access, you have to authenticate who you are. Federal government is all about checks and balances. So Easy Fed Grants is looking to have at least 2 users from your organization that will authenticate their identity and then request access to the system. So to do that, in one of the job aids, it talks about creating an account. You're going to log into we call it our eAuth home, e-authentication. So basically you will submit a request and you'll fill it out. You are filling it out for you. It's not for your organization. It's not for a joint account. This is your account that you are going to sign up for, because you are going to go into the system and you are going to electronically sign items with your signature. So at least one person needs to have it. If you want to submit claims, then you'll need at least 2 people in the system with roles set up. So again, that's for checks and balances. One person will create things, a second person will certify that it's correct and move it forward. And within this eAuth page, there is a help desk link if you have trouble setting things up, but it's pretty basic. It kind of looks like setting up a credit report. It'll ask you, what address did you live at, and it'll give you a couple of options. You had a car loan with Ford. How much was your monthly payment? It's not doing a credit report. It is just finding some ways that it can identify that you are who you say you are. So that's the first step, to get set up so that you have an eAuth account. The next step will be to go into Easy Fed Grants and request access. Again, this is when you go in, you can see on the left-hand side, the navigation bar, the first one is request access. And this is what the main page looks like, and the job aids. Hopefully they'll be available soon online, but you will have them in that email. There's also a couple of good ones that are in the package too. Working with multiple organizations, if you happen to be on the board of something and you already have Easy Fed Grants, how you set up a different identity for your different grants. If you have a very small organization, there is a job aid on how to best set up your users so that you can get things done in Easy Fed Grants. Okay, the first person that goes in is going to be what is called your grants administrative officer. And this is who you decide to set up in that role. This will be the person that will request access. And once that access is approved, any other users will go to that grant administrative officer, who will decide if it's appropriate for that person to have access to your organization, and then also make sure that they are signed up with the appropriate role. So the grants administrative officer is your first. That request gets sent to me and my compatriots that are also have the AGMO role, and you will submit that, set it up for your organization. We will see it and approve it, and then you are good to go. So the next most common role is a grant processor, who might be someone that's going to help you prepare payment requests or prepare reports. They're also going to look at who is your signatory official. And that's basically the one that has the authority to sign on behalf of the organization. There are also secondary roles that would go along with that. So you might have somebody that has one primary role and a couple of secondary roles. Certifying official is the most common one. That is somebody, it may not have to be your signatory official, but it might be someone on your accounting staff that might be the one that would sign off on your financial reports. It's up to you who those people are. You're going to make sure that they're set up with the appropriate role and then the appropriate secondary role. Panelists, we don't use a lot. That's mostly for reviewing applications for notice of funding opportunities. Generally, if I see somebody come in with a panelist role, I'll send it back, because we're not using that role currently. So this is just a view of what it looks like when you go in. You'll request access. It will have a drop down for the user role. It'll ask you why you're doing it, and you can just simply say, I got a new conservation innovation grant. and it'll guide you through the process of what your organization is. You'll search for that by done or your unique identifying UIE, unique entity identifier. So it'll link it to your organization and therefore to your grant. And it'll also ask you to fill out your personal information. If you have questions as you're going along, they do host monthly training sessions. So you want to pay attention. Hopefully they used to have a calendar that would list the dates. Now they've got them all just sort of in a static list here. But you want to pay attention whether it's a recipient training or an agency training. So this slide includes all of the recipient training that's going to be happening between now and June. So basically it's around the same time every month. And if you'll notice the topics, the first one to be covered on March 8 will be Easy Fed Grants user roles. So they generally cover 1 or 2 topics per session, and each topic will start on the top of an hour. So if you log into that session at 12 Eastern, the first hour will talk about the user roles, and then at 1 o'clock they'll talk about accessing Easy Fed Grants. And that's generally how they operate for most of their sessions. So they're all different things. I recommend that you kind of do the just-in-time thing. If you're just getting set up with user roles, you might want to sit on that session. When you get ready to start submitting reports, sit down on a session that covers submitting claims and reports. And like I said, they're generally pretty good. The other session that is excellent is the frequently asked questions, because they'll go over some things that they have in their queue, and then it's an opportunity to talk to them one-on-one and ask questions and get answers right there. And they are always available at the Easy Fed Grants help desk, which the address is down below. Unfortunately, as an agency staff, I can't help you if you have problems with getting an Easy Fed Grants access. I can grant it when it comes to me, but if you have issues, your best bet is to contact the Easy Fed Grants help desk, or to contact the EAuth help desk if you can't get your EAuth password and login set up. All right, payments and reports. The standard form 270 is the required forms for submitting any payment request. You can either fill them out on paper and mail them to us, or you can go right into Easy Fed Grants and submit your payment that way. If you submit them in the portal, you are basically electronically submitting an SF270 form, so you don't have to also attach it. You will have required support documentation that will need to be attached, and there's a place right in the claim that you can do that. And the 270 is basically this form. There's a number of different versions around for it. But basically block 1 is what type of payment are you requesting? Is it an advance or reimbursement? Is it final or partial? The basis of request in block 2 is whether your accounting is on a cash basis or an accrual basis. Number 3 is you're submitting it to USDA and RCS. Number 4 would be your grant identifier number, which typically the numbers for Easy Fed Grants start with an NR. You probably have a 21, and then it's 3A75000013 Caesar or G002. That whole number that's found on your notice of award in block 1 is the number that should go in block 4. If you're submitting this in Easy Fed Grants, it won't put in a partial payment number request. It's not required because Easy Fed Grants will track them. But if you're submitting them on paper, you are going to make sure that each one is a sequential request. First one will be number 1, the next one will be number 2. Number 6 and 7, you don't really need to fill out, but period 8, number 8, the period covered is important, because we want to make sure that the expenses you've incurred are within the period of performance of your agreement, and we're going to make sure that the from and to date are within that performance period. Nice thing about submitting it in Easy Fed grants, if you're doing a reimbursement payment, is 9 will be filled out for you. The beauty of Easy Fed grants is it knows exactly what you requested so far. It has all the information for your agreement, so it will pre-populate some things. If you do that on paper, then you lose some of that automation. The next part, number 11 of the 270, are your total project outlays. It's important in 11A that your total outlays include both your federal and your non-federal share. I often advise folks, if it's kind of easier if you put your federal share in column A and your non-federal share in column B to kind of keep it straight. But each time that you submit a request, it's going to be for the total program outlays as of that date. And then you'd split it out in boxes F and G, or what the non-federal share is during that period and the federal share. And in Easy Fed grants, it's already going to calculate line H for what you've already requested for federal funds. Otherwise, you'll have to do the math and bring that forward from your previous request. Obviously, your first request will be, the previously requested will be 0 because it's your first payment request. But after that, you should make sure that what you have received in federal funds goes on line H, and then it will calculate the share now requested. If you are doing an advance, then we recommend that you use line D and not section 12 to fill out your request for an advance. Generally, it's limited between 30 and 90 days, depending on how your agreement is set up, that you can request advance. You have to justify or provide a calculation of how you came up with the number that's going to be advanced. And an important distinction is that you cannot submit an electronic request for an advance in Easy Fed grants. You have to do it on paper and submit it. It's just the way that the system was set up for our organization. The final part of the 270 is the certification. So again, if you are submitting this electronically in Easy Fed grants, one person would be preparing this request. Once they've finished it, they'll route it for approval, and then your certifying official will go into Easy Fed grants. They'll have a work list item to review it. And then basically by affixing their signature there, stating that they certified to the best of my knowledge and belief the data on this form is correct. So that's recorded electronically in Easy Fed grants. If you're doing a paper copy, then you're going to make sure that this is signed with either an ink signature and then scanned into us, or it's a digital signature. If it comes to us where the name is just typed in the signature block, we're going to have to return it to you. It cannot be a font or a font script for that signature. So some of the common errors or issues that you want to look out for, the period coverage should always be a distinct period. So we're looking for it's September to October. The next request should be November to December, as an example. If you should encounter something where like, oh, this is for my November to December report, but I forgot something from October. In that case, it is fine to say this is now my October to December report, but you're going to want to put a note on it that clearly says, this period is overlapping, but we had expenses that we forgot to include, so they're included here. If you don't do that, we're going to come back and ask you, and why, your last one was October. Are you sure you haven't already submitted this to us? So if you can get out in front and just clearly state that, there's a reason why it's overlapping and it's valid. Again, another common thing is the total that's submitted should always include the non-federal share. If someone has provided, or you're providing some of the cost share, or your third party has submitted it, make sure it's included with each request and it's carried forward for each request. It's a cumulative reporting on the payment request. Again, it is handwritten or certified. And we just finished a new guide within your general terms and conditions link on your agreement. If you go to that website, we do have a step-by-step guide for submitting payment requests that has all this information about what goes in each cell. It has instructions on what the national form says, as well as our little additional instructions that we wanted to provide to participants. So that is available on that website, as well as we call it the GADBET. It's the Grants and Agreements Division Budget Expense Table. And that's a great way to summarize your expenses to show what was budgeted, what you've spent. It'll show you what's remaining by each budget category. And it's just a nice way to summarize your payment request when you send it in. It's not required, but we recommend it. Nope, I skipped ahead a little bit. So supporting documentation, you're going to make sure that you retain all your source documents in your records. The CIG folks do want to see that information submitted with your payment request, and you're going to want to retain those for 3 years after you submit your final report, just in case of audits. So there is a job aid that I sent to you that'll be included. Again, hopefully at some point it will be available on the Easy Fed Grant site, but for now you'll have it in the email. Again, reimbursements you can enter through Easy Fed Grants. If you choose not to go that route, or if you have a request for an advance payment, you're going to send it to our email box, and you're going to copy the SIG box on it. When you send it into our box, we have a ticketing system where we log each request and we track it through the review, the payment, and the final document that shows that it was paid. So when we log it, you will get a request back from one of the folks that do the logging that will tell you what the request has been received and logged as payment number 00134. So if you have to inquire about it, then you'll have that ticket number. When you submit it, it's also helpful if you include your agreement number and the payment request number or payment period within the subject line, because that helps us get right to your agreement. And an important thing is, if you are using the external portal to submit your claim and a claim is returned to you for corrections, please edit that claim. There is a job aid that will tell you how to do that. Don't create a new one, because then it just bogs up the system and you'll run into issues where Easy Fed Grants doesn't let you submit a new claim until the previous one has been processed. Occasionally we'll get ones where it's unacceptable, and that will be returned to you as unacceptable. And in that case, you will start a new claim. But if there are minor corrections, then it is possible for us not to start from zero, but to allow you to edit it and resubmit it. So one thing to remember that when you are submitting claims is that there are required reports that are set up in the responsibilities of the party in your agreements. Typically they are, it can be quarterly, semi-annual, or annual reports. One is a performance report, the other is a financial report. On the due dates for these reports, Easy Fed Grants will send you an email saying that this report has been generated. You have until the due date to submit them. Occasionally, it's not just an automated thing. They do have to actually launch it. So occasionally, when they launch it, it may be a couple of days off of when the actual due date is. And occasionally, it may not generate when they're supposed to. And occasionally, if your email is not set up properly, or if it's missing an email in the system, it may not generate the report. If that happens when you think you should have a report due, you can work with your assigned GMS to help us. We can help you resolve why it didn't happen and get it fixed. The other thing is that if you have an overdue report, Easy Fed Grants is going to put a block on their system for submitting any payment request until those required reports have been received. So just one way that they can enforce compliance with the reporting. So one, again, is the performance report. In your general terms and conditions, it'll tell you all the elements that should be addressed in your performance report. you know, what was supposed to happen during this period, what did happen, if there were delays, why was it delayed, how are you going to get back on schedule. The financial report is basically how much money have you outlaid, and then it'll compare to what your federal financial award was, what your total match was. It'll subtract the cost of the stuff that you have already earned for that period, and it'll show the balance remaining on the agreement, both for the federal and the non-federal shares. So that's another nice way for us to look at it and say, well, you're 90% through the agreement and you've only charged us 10%. So what's going on there? Or vice versa, you're 10% through and you've charged us 90%. What's going on? So again, these work hand in hand. If your reports are overdue, then your payments will be delayed until those are addressed. And another important factor is our final reports. If you are not in compliance with your final reporting, then that is a finding that needs to be submitted to our clearinghouse that keeps track of issues like that for performance. So there is a job aid that is available step by step on how to submit a financial or performance report. If you don't have anybody set up in Easy Fed grants, then you of course can just send in paper copies of the SF 425 form, which is a financial report, and or Word document, Adobe, whatever that addresses the elements for the required performance report. And again, if anything is submitted through Easy Fed grants and there is a problem and it's returned, then you can just edit it and resubmit it, and we will address it that way. Changes on the agreements. So there are some elements that need to be addressed by an amendment. So by chance you're working on the project, it becomes clear that additional funding is required. That would be an amendment request. So that would be a whole package where you would submit another SF 424 for an application, and we would decide whether it was valid. The program manager would agree, and in that case, we would issue an amendment. There are other things like changes to the agreement SOW. I know with a lot of the CIG projects, it's kind of new and innovative, so there may be things encountered along the way that you get halfway through and say, oh, we're not going to meet that deliverable, or we could do that, but we now see that there's something that might have a better product. So in that case, you might request a change to the agreement for changing your statement of work, the deliverables, the milestones, or things like that. Another big one is the agreement period of performance. You might be halfway through and decide, oh, I need another 6 months, or I need another year to get this done. I don't need any more money, but I do need more time. So all of these are actions that would require an amendment. So you would work with your program manager and your GMS to initiate the request for an amendment. And you would submit that, and we would send you out a new notice of award for that action. There are also some changes that you may do, but we don't require a specific amendment, but we do require written approval. So there are some changes to the project deliverables, a milestone that are minor that we can just submit it for prior approval. If you're changing your subaward and or contracts within your budget and your plan of work, you would submit that to us for review, and we would let you know if it was approved. If you're changing key personnel is another one, that's a big one. There are certain things that under 2 CFR subpart E, the cost principles 200-407, you can just go online and look that up. There are certain things that require prior approval. So if you look to see what you are requesting, if it's listed as one of those items, then you would need to send it in to us. And also if you are changing your support cost for cost sharing or other things like that, you would also need prior approval for us. So in this case, you wouldn't get a form notice of award in return, but we will send you a document that documents our approval of your request. A couple more things. Oh, sorry, the cost sharing and matching. If you have a negotiated indirect cost rate that changes over your award, then you're going to want prior approval for that. If you're purchasing equipment that wasn't identified in the approved budget, you'll need prior approval for that. And this other one, if you are transferring costs within your budget, if you received more than $250,000 for your federal award, and the amount that you want to move around is more than 10% of your total budget, then that needs written prior approval. Again, these are all, it's a lot of different scenarios. Your best bet is, if you have a question, is to work with your program manager to find out if you need prior approval or if you need an amendment for it. And then you can work with your grants management specialist to get that approved. There are a couple other things. You can just inform us of what's happening. If you are changing points of contact, you might have an administrative contact. This is not your key personnel that's working on the project. It's like an administrative contact. Please send all, payment receipts to this address. That would be a point of contact. If you're working within your budget and you receive less than $250,000 of federal funds, and you're moving less than 10% of the total budget, that is within your right to do that. It helps if you send us a copy of that so that we have it when we're reviewing payment requests. And, generally I just submit and say, we want to move so much from personnel over to fringe, or we find out, we don't have as much travel as we anticipated, so we want to use these funds for additional personnel. That's something that just send us in, inform us what's going on. We'll file it, but you don't need prior approval for it per se. And again, it's always best to work with your program manager to initiate the changes. All right, whoops. Agreement closeout. So 120 days after your agreement expires, we're going to be looking to make sure everything is closed out. So that means by the 120-day mark that you have paid all your bills. You've liquidated all the financial obligations that you incurred under this award. Within 120 days, you're going to want to submit that final payment request to us. Within 120 days, we're going to make sure that all the financial performance and other reports have been received, accepted, and are on file. If you have any real property or equipment that is involved in your agreement, you want to make sure that that is disposed of properly. And if by chance, if you had any advance payments or other payments that for some reason you found out that the non-federal share was not as high as it should have been, you need to return funds, that should all be done no later than 120 days after the agreement expires. And this is important because in the past, it wasn't a big deal, but now if you are not compliant with the reporting requirements, then we are required by regulation to report that to FAPIS, which is the federal, I don't know what that stands for. But that's a bad thing. That's basically when somebody looks up your record, they'll say, oh, we had these findings on this, non-compliance with the reporting requirements. So again, it's all easily avoidable. You can submit your reports right through Easy Fed Grants, or you can submit them to our the FPAC BC GAD at USDA.gov and to the CIG address, and we will get them on file. So basically what happens in Easy Fed Grants is that the program manager would initiate the closeout once it has been determined that all of the deliverables have been received, all the reports are on file, all the payments are made. The agreement will be marked closed in Easy Fed Grants, and you will receive a letter stating that the agreement has been closed and you have met all the responsibilities, and that you should retain all those materials for 3 years after the expiration date. And that is it, other than we'll take some questions. And then again, these are the two main addresses that the Easy Fed Grants Help Desk. If you have issues with things that are with your access, then those are the folks to go to. Any other request, you can send it to our box. The best way to do it is to send it to our box, and we can get the request logged and make sure that we get it issued. And that's what I have for the presentation. Do folks have questions?
Yeah, you can put the questions in the chat or just raise your hand and we'll call on you. Okay, Danielle at Viva Farms.
Hi, can you guys hear me okay?
Yep.
Great. I'm just wondering what, I'm looking through all of the job aids that you sent, but how we have Easy Fed grant access, but how does the project itself, what's the process of getting it into our Easy Fed grant account? Do we have to do that part, or does that happen once our award is executed?
Yes, so when we set up the award, it should be linked to your DUNS number or your unique identifier.
Okay.
So when you sign up for your access, it should have that same number, and then you'll see any awards that are associated with that.
Okay. And that wouldn't have happened yet if we haven't signed our award, right?
Correct. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? See, let's check the chat. Oh, nothing has shown up. We covered a lot of this, Jackie, not on Easy Fed Grants, but just some of the process questions already.
Great.
Can you please discuss the process of advance payments and reporting expenditures? I'll have to second that question, Jackie. That's always a confusing one.
All right, so what is?
It's in the chat box.
Yes. Okay, so advance payments, typically we run on a reimbursable basis. So you would, after a certain point, you'd say, I've spent this much for federal share, this much for non-federal share. Here's what I spent it on compared to my budget. Give me the money back. And then you would submit the 270 for a reimbursement and we'd pay you. An advance payment is where I don't have the funds right now to be able to buy equipment or to support whatever. I'm going to need to request funds in advance. So that would mean that you would submit a 270 to us. It would be for an advance request. And accompanying that, you would just lay out, I'm requesting this advance for February to March because I need to buy, I need to set myself up for this. I need to book, this, and this is going to happen. This is my estimate of how much I need. I expect to have this, spent by the end of March. So typically you can request from between a 30-day and a 90-day period. After that, so we would advance you the funds, February and March, you would spend it. And then by April, we'd be looking for you to say, okay, I got this advance. Here's the receipts for it. This is what I spent it on. This is what I accomplished. And then we would go into the system and then we would liquidate that advance to just show that you had spent the money on the things that you requested it for. Occasionally, there might be some instances where it gets to be April and you haven't spent what you requested for March. In that case, you'd want to make sure that we know that, yeah, I didn't get to do this. I plan to do it now in April. And so it's just a way to get some money to you up front and you would liquidate it afterwards. And I'm sorry, the questions are stacking up now.
Do you want me to go through them for you, or do you want to just go through them?
I'm just
got-
looking, so
I got the match one. So why don't you handle Courtney Taylor's question? If we already have an account for Easy Fed grants with an EOF through additional grants from NRCS, will I be able to have this on the same account to submit the SIG reports, or does it have to be through other DUNS number?
it depends on how you applied for it. If you applied using the same DUNS number, then everything will flow through. If it was two different organizations or two different DUNS, then you'd need two different accounts. Does that make sense?
Yep, that's fine. I just have a bunch of CAs through our SWCD, but this was through a different entity, so that makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah, you probably want to look at, there's a, I'm not sure I included it, but there is a job aid on what happens if you're associated with multiple organizations.
Okay.
Yeah, Courtney, if you email the SIG inbox, we can try to dig that up for you. That, because it's hard to find the job aids on the website.
Yeah, you can
Okay.
also send a request to the Easy Fed Grants Help Desk and they'll send it
yeah.
over to you. Yep,
Okay, thank you.
you're welcome.
Jackie, I'll take this question from Ryan because he says, in the session this morning, we mentioned performance and financial reports. And then he mentions the SF-270 are due every 6 months. So the SF-270 is the standard form 270, and that's actually for payment requests, not for reports. So payment requests, we ask you submit them quarterly. Now, financial reports for the, which is the SF 425, hopefully I got the right number. Those are due for the SIG program annually. So you will only have to submit them through Easy Fed grants annually. And then the last report is the technical performance report. And those are due twice a year. Those are due semi-annually, so every 6 months. So all three of those have different timelines. So hopefully that clears that up.
Yeah, and if you have, it's good to keep on a quarterly payment request, but if you have a quarter where you might have, it might have been slow or you had only non-federal share being earned during that quarter, you do not have to send in an SF-270 for a zero payment request. It's only when you have federal funds that are being requested. And I'm sorry, my cat jumped up. That was not profanities I type. I'm sorry. I'm so embarrassed.
So even your cat has some questions here today.
Yeah, always. And why aren't you feeding me is her main one.
So are there any other questions for Jackie? I know, Jackie, I don't know. Can you stay after 1? Can you stay a little bit, or are you?
I have another meeting coming up, so
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
All right.
We can always contact her too, because she's really the Easy Fed grants expert. So if something comes up, we can reach out. Okay, last call. Any more questions? I don't see any new ones in the chat.
Yep, and I was just going to say the FAPIS, FAPIIS, is the Federal Awardee Performance and Integrity Information System. So that's where we have to report any non-compliance, and that is visible for anybody anywhere to pull it up by DUNS or by identifier and see if there are any findings against your organization. So we don't like to do it, but unfortunately we will have to do it. But sending in reports is certainly something that is fairly easy to do. It's not too painful.
Yeah, and we'll be reminding you before it ever gets to that point. So
Yes.
that doesn't happen very often. It's usually when like an organization, it becomes very difficult. Like if an organization is, loses a lot of executives at once or something like that. We had one business we had a grant with, and they had an unfriendly takeover. It was like they were like traded on the stock market, and like all of our contacts we lost, and so they ended up, I think, getting on that list. But okay, so thank you very much, Jackie, for joining us today. And I guess if there's no more questions, we can let you go.
Awesome,
And
thank you.
we'll move forward to the next speaker. So
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so next we have from our own SIG team, we have Jean Brewer, and Jean manages the NRCS SIG mailbox. In addition, she does the review of a lot of financial materials that come through. So she's going to cover some tips and tricks. So with that, Jean, do you want to do a share screen, or let me know if you want me to do it?
I'll do a share screen. Thanks, Caroline.
Great. Yep.
Pull it up real quick. Okay, let me know, you guys, when y'all can see the screen.
I can see it.
Okay. Okay. Well, first and foremost, congratulations. So glad you guys are going to be with us for the next few years. We look forward to working with y'all, and hopefully we'll have successful projects. We look forward to hearing how everything goes out in the field. So as Caroline stated, I'm Jean Brewer, and I handle all the day-to-day operations for SIG. I manage the SIG inbox. So you'll see on the screen my name and that SIG email. Please memorize that email. Put it to memory, share it with your accounting department, share it with your associates, your admin staff. That is the centralized location where if you have questions, you have problems, you need to send us something, that is the location where you send it to. And we will, I typically try to respond within 24 hours, if not sooner, because I know everybody has timelines and needs answers quickly. You should have all received the emails from Caroline within the last hour or so, the SIG toolkit. In those emails are your Easy Fed Grants email that Jackie shared with you. You have all the job aids in there, all the templates for the federal financial report, the 270 for your claims, and your template for your semi-annual progress reports. If at some point over the course of your project, you misplace those emails, you misplace those templates, please reach out to me at the SIG inbox. I'll be more than glad to send you those templates again. I'll be more than glad to work with you on how to fill out the FFR, that 425. There's also instructions. I'll be more than glad to walk you through how to fill out the 270, which is your claims reimbursement form. And there's instructions with that as well. I am here to help you with whatever needs and issues may arise on your project. So please reach out to me with that SIG inbox. Also, with the 270 and the FFR, the 425, as they've been stating over the course of this orientation, please stay on top of your match reporting. If you have any questions, again, please email that inbox. The issues that have arisen over the last year and a half that I've seen is that claims will be put on hold when match reporting is not reported correctly and accurately. We need to ensure that everyone with their project is staying in reporting compliance and staying on top of their match reporting. And when match reporting is not reported, then we have to bring it to your attention and the claim gets put on hold, which delays your payment. And that's the last thing we want to do for you guys. And also if there's any issues and you have change of staff, you're going to move money around from one cost category to another. You need to bring in some grad students that weren't in your original budget. Please just drop us a line and let us know. Because in that way, we're alerted to the fact that you're straying from your original award budget. And then when we receive your claim, we'll know that those changes we were already alerted to. So we'll know that we can go ahead and continue to process your claim and pay it rather than hold it up and wait for an explanation from you. We'll have already had it on the front end. So no change is too small, no change is too big. We just need to know And like Caroline stated earlier this morning, if it is over 10% of your overall budget, then we can send you the form, the GADSM 2, and we can walk you through how to fill it out. And then you send it back to us. We'll get your technical contact to approve it, and we'll push it through for final processing. And again, I'm going to reiterate that CIG inbox, that should be your takeaway from everything. Please email the CIG inbox if you have any questions, issues, problems, even with Easy Fed grants. Please let us know, and we'll be more than glad to help you. Also, in Easy Fed grants, when you upload your 425, which is annual, or you upload your 270, which is your claim reimbursement quarterly, everything needs to be uploaded through Easy Fed grants. If not, the system actually locks the claim and we can't proceed with processing that payment because Easy Fed grants has a fail-safe in the system for reporting compliance requirements. So it alerts us and it will send out an email letting us know that a progress report is due, the financial report is due, and we cannot process that claim. So it's very important that everyone gets Easy Fed grants access. And if you have any questions, you can email the inbox. We also, in that email Caroline sent out, there's the Easy Fed grants help desk. Reach out to them. And we do have a workaround in the beginning once you start getting going with everything. If you're waiting for Easy Fed grants to get you set up with your access, you can email your FFR and your 270 to the inbox. I will push it through for processing, and there's a workaround on the back end that the grants and administration team, agreements team will be able to upload it to Easy Fed grants, but that's only temporary. We really want everybody to use the system for what it was designed for, and that way it'll keep you in reporting compliance. And then let's see what else. Oh, also, towards the end of your project, or at any time really during your project, if you find that you're going to need extra time to complete your deliverables and the project needs another 6 months to a year, there is a form that we'll send out, the no-cost extension that Caroline described earlier. Please reach out to us as far in advance as possible. I will be more than glad to give you that form. I can send it to you and get that processed for you as soon as possible, because as Caroline stated, there have been some issues in the past, and it gets a little sticky to where once the project end date is over, our hands are tied. So yeah, but it all rolls back into, if there's any changes, anything going on with the project, please keep us in the information loop, because when we know something's going on, we can help you guys, we can help you stay on track with your project, and we can take care of the back end administration stuff for you, but we have to be made aware of it. And I believe that would be it. Caroline, is there anything else that I'm missing or leaving out?
No, I think we just wanted to definitely clarify some of these things. So I guess the one thing I wanted to, just so people realize, if we do the work around for Easy Fed grants, we will mark in Easy Fed grants, it will get marked off that your progress report was submitted, but because it's all done by hand, sometimes things happen. And what we've seen is some of the people who are relying on the email regularly, their claims are getting held up. So that's really why it's just smoother for everyone if you go through Easy Fed grants.
Yes.
Yeah, I just don't want people to think that by using the workaround, you won't get credit for those reports. You will. It just can delay things.
Yeah, it's very time consuming on the back end for the grants and agreements team to do that. But it is a workaround until Easy Fed grants access is, given. So there's more than one way to skin a cat. Oh, and I would like to add to all the project directors out there, please be sure to include your accounting department in the 270 and 425 information, let them know what those templates look like. Please hand them off to them and let them know about the CIG inbox, because I know in some of the larger organizations and the universities, sometimes there's something gets lost in translation, there's miscommunication, and we like to know that the accounting departments, if they need to, they can reach directly out to us and we can walk them through things. And so that way, just please communicate with everybody that you feel will be touching this project at some point in time, regardless of how small their job is on the project, because everybody matters and everybody has an important part, especially when it comes to the reporting to us. So, and you can give them my name, you can give them that email box, and I can deal with them directly. And that way I can handle the financial part with them. And that way the PDs can concentrate on the projects and do what they need to do and not be burdened with all that financial piece. So, are there any questions? Okay, well, Caroline, I'm done. Thank you for letting me talk. I hope everyone has a successful project, and I look forward to working with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, John. Okay, so we have one more talk today, and it starts at 3 o'clock Eastern time, so it doesn't start for 50 minutes. So we can give you guys all a little time back, and we'll all meet here again for the last talk at 3 o'clock Eastern time in 50 minutes, 5-0. I think we'll turn off the recording here for a little while, but let's all meet back here again in 50 minutes. Okay? Thank you.